Hi, Sarah. Welcome back to the Hormones in Harmony podcast. I'm so excited to have you back. I've got a ton of questions for you, as always, that I've been saving up from clients asking me questions and people on Instagram sending me messages. So there's no better expert, in my opinion, to have back on the podcast. And that's you to talk all about skincare and some of the subjects that we didn't discuss last time in episode 11. So yeah, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to dig into these topics because they're super interesting and really like some of the really, I would say, important skincare questions. So yeah, we can dive in.
Yeah, let's get started then because there's a lot to cover. So first subject, what are your thoughts on sunscreen? Should we be wearing it every day? And what should we look for when purchasing a sunscreen that that hopefully won't clog our pores and break us out? What should we be looking for?
That's a really good question. And in all honesty, sunscreen, in my opinion, is one of the few products that are really causing the most issues for my clients when it comes to, like breakouts and just like not being fit for the skin, because it is quite difficult to find something that works, because generally I don't like any of the drugstore sunscreens that you can buy just in your store. I always ask that, what kind of sunscreen I can just buy in the store? I'm like, no, don't touch any of those. So we have chemical and physical sunscreens, kind of like a rough division there. So chemical sunscreens, they will react a bit differently with the UV rays, kind of absorbing them and then releasing small amounts of heat, kind of like in protecting your skin from UV rays. They kind of get depleted in the course of a few hours or so. So this is why we always kind of here to reapply the sunscreen. When it comes to mineral sunscreen, I definitely advise to look for zinc oxide. Some sunscreens I see they will be just with titanium dioxide, and this one is not offering broad UV spectrum protection. Zinc oxide is basically the only one there that can do that. So sometimes you will see like a blend of chemical sunscreen ingredients with titanium dioxide, but again, I would my personal preference and what I find really works the best is zinc oxide. So you will also see kind of very different concentrations of it. And I do like to go for those that are closer to like 20%. It can be a bit strong or like too much for some people, even though it will really provide like a decent UV protection. And just because like I would say a small percentage of population is sensitive to zinc oxide. So it might not be a problem when it's in a bit lower concentration, but at high concentrations around like 17-20%, it might even like cause breakouts or just kind of like a reaction and feel too heavy, because this is actually gonna give that kind of like a white cast. So we have nowadays a lot of mineral sunscreens that have kind of perfected the formula, and you're not gonna get that white cast on your skin. The one I use by Madara is really nice, like it's a bit tinted and it's not heavy, and it really has nice like natural ingredients and a good formula. So I would say when it comes to picking a mineral sunscreen, I would try to scan. So, you have your zinc oxide, which is the main thing, for the percentage of it, and also to scan for then comedogenic ingredients if you're prone to acne. And this will be kind of like heavy oils, like coconut oil, maybe olive oil, things like that. So you can always kind of search for comedogenic rating on different oils. Sometimes people will not be able to tolerate any oils. So like if you say have just one or two oils at the bottom of ingredient list, it might not cause any issues. Even things like waxes, like beeswax, might not cause an issue. But if you have 10 of them somewhere in the beginning of ingredient list, it might start to feel heavy and comedogenic. And this is when it's gonna start to cause breakouts. As I said, like in very few cases, I saw that people have issues with all mineral sunscreens they've used, and this could be due to zinc oxide. And then they have to use a chemical one. So yeah, I would definitely go for the zinc oxide one. I think it's most effective and it stays on your skin the longest and just gives really good protection. So you don't need to, reapply it 7 times per day. It's like stays on your skin. Obviously, we produce more sebum and sweat. It brushes off your skin eventually, but it is going to stay, for the duration of, I'd say most of the day. Then I would say also What I could add about sunscreen, do we need to use it every single day? I would say yes, you normally could. When it comes to, sunlight exposure, you can expose maybe other parts of your body when the weather allows. Obviously, in the wintertime, your face is basically maybe the only exposed skin. So you would probably need to spend some time without any sunscreen. Or if you're spending, let's say, several hours per day outside, then I would apply the sunscreen, and because you are gonna get something, like nothing's gonna be 100% blocking the UV rays. So yeah, I would, if you are really, and I know it's like an ingredient, like product that a lot of the skin coaches and experts will tell you to use every single day no matter what, but sometimes when my clients are trying to heal their skin from acne and just need their skin to breathe, I will sometimes skip the sunscreen to give the skin enough time to just recuperate without bringing in anything that could potentially cause more breakouts. So we want to kind of establish a base routine that is not causing any more breakouts, and then you can kind of start adding more products like sunscreen and watch if something's breaking out. Because if you have like so many products and you don't really know what's breaking out, right? So as I said, like sunscreen is one product that can really give a lot of issues. But these were kind of like my general tips for picking a sunscreen. I actually have a list on my website of some of like a few favorite that I generally recommend. In case when people are really sensitive to like all the liquid sunscreens, like cream sunscreens, I do recommend a powder one, which is also zinc oxide based by Derma E, which is like the purest powder sunscreen that I found. And this one you can apply over makeup as well and just kind of like easily reapply because it's powder throughout the day. So people who are really like in areas of the world where the sun is really strong, like Australia, Brazil, or something like that, I do tell them to be more careful with the sun. So in those cases, I would consider reapplying when the sun is really strong. Maybe for us in Norway and UK, it's not so critical to reapply so many times. But yeah, depending where people are in the world, it really does become like a necessity to have a decent sunscreen and reapply it. So this can be like an easy way to reapply some protection.
Okay, great. And we were just talking before we started recording, and I just asked you for like an overview of like everything, because you could go on forever. You've got like so much knowledge in your brain. So pretty much with all of these different topics that we're going to be discussing, I'm sure you've got a blog post on them. So you're going to send me a link, or I'll link in the show notes to further information on all of these different subjects. But what I had a few questions on sunscreen. So we know that zinc is beneficial, like internally through our diet, to improve skin health. Does the zinc topically help with like skin protection in any way, or is it just does it just have UV protective mechanisms?
The zinc topically can actually be pretty soothing for the skin, and it usually is, which is why you will find like 1% or 0.5% of zinc in some of the topical products. I think that The Ordinary actually has niacinamide with zinc.
Oh yeah, I have
because
that one.
both are kind of like anti-inflammatory and just calming to the skin. So in most cases, as I said, like people will really benefit from that zinc. And it's the same thing, the one you find in sunscreen. So I've never personally had problems, and a lot of people don't, with zinc oxide. So it can definitely be pretty soothing for the skin. I even think like there are creams for babies that will contain it, just because they will kind of like soothe the eczema and just like generally anti-inflammatory. So yeah, definitely topical zinc can soothe the inflammation and just really be protective of the skin.
Okay, and is there a particular order that we need to add sunscreen on? So you mentioned the powder one you can put on top of your makeup like continuously, but what's the correct order? So if we're applying it first thing in the morning, do we do that before we do like an oil, or after? What do we do?
I would honestly do it as a last step. I know like historically we were advised to put it as a first step, but this was mostly for like chemical sunscreens. And then you need to kind of like wait, 20 minutes before you go outside or whatnot. But with physical sunscreens, so with the zinc oxide based ones, I usually just recommend applying it at the very last. And yeah, obviously when you reapply, it's also going to be the last product on your skin. So you can apply it, you know, under your makeup, obviously, if you're wearing like a liquid foundation or something. But yeah, usually like it's in the last product that you apply.
Good. And you have a list of your favorite kind of non-toxic ones on your website, so we'll link that as well if anyone's wondering about brands. Okay, so next subject is perioral dermatitis, which is kind of a skin rash that people tend to get around their mouth. So what are your top tips for that? Obviously, a lot of it can be internally based, like from my perspective, I see a lot of that being linked to gut health, whether it's candida or bacterial overgrowth that's causing this, and sometimes hormonal imbalances, hence why it can sometimes flare in pregnancy. But what can we do topically to maybe heal or improve current perioral dermatitis or prevent it from coming back if there is anything?
It's a really good question, and we can also link a full blog post on this. I'm just going to kind of give the key takeaways from this. So it's obviously, it has root, like the root causes is inflammation, disrupted skin barrier, imbalanced skin microbiome, which is basically the same as for acne. Like kind of like this is at the core of the problem, right? Mm-hmm. And this imbalance can, as you say, stem from the inside. So, you know, if somebody has taken a course of antibiotics, this is obviously also going to affect the skin microbiome, which can contribute to developing perioral dermatitis, which is kind of like, it looks like a mesh between rash and acne, mostly around the mouth and like that area. So we are not really sure what's causing it, but as I said, like inflammation, disrupted skin barrier, and imbalanced skin microbiome are at the core of the problem. A lot of times, you know, people, when it comes to perioral dermatitis and acne, like also other skin issues, people tell me like, what ingredients, like what products I can use? And my first question is always, what are you using right now? Because there is no use in applying helpful products if you haven't first eliminated what's hurting you. It's the same with diet. Like you can eat the good foods, but like if you're eating foods that are really triggering you, like you're not gonna get anywhere if you don't cut them out. So we need to cut out products and ingredients that are raising inflammation, that are disrupting in some way skin barrier. So these will be products with fragrances, products with like irritating essential oils like peppermint, menthol. Like a lot of the lip balms will actually have this, and as you're smearing on your lips, like it goes around your mouth, which also can be triggering. A lot of the mouthwash and like toothpaste will contain some of these ingredients. Also sodium lauryl sulfate, which is a really strong surfactant found in facial cleansers, also in toothpaste and ingredient and products like that. So this will end up around your mouth, and it can really irritate the skin there. So I recommend avoiding them. A lot of times perioral dermatitis can flare after use of topical steroid creams. So sometimes you will maybe like even treat it or like a similar condition with it, and then dermatologists will not tell you to stop using it after like maximum 2 weeks or something, and then you're gonna develop horribly like skin conditions like severe disrupted skin barrier, perioral dermatitis, you know, whatnot. So it's really important to keep an eye on that. Also, like nasal sprays containing corticosteroids can actually trigger the same. Fluoride is a big trigger in my experience, and it can be in drinking water, it's in the toothpaste, maybe in other, you know, oral hygiene products. So this is definitely an ingredient you want to avoid if you're dealing with perioral dermatitis. So I know it's a bit of a hassle for people who live in areas where the water is still fluoridated, like, oh, I need to buy the filter. And I was like, yeah, but you do really need to, because it can really be that one trigger that is stopping you from seeing progress when it comes to perioral dermatitis. Interestingly, also heavy occlusives, so like heavy creams, heavy foundations, something that's gonna really sit like a thick, you know, unbreathable layer on top of your skin, can also trigger or like worsen perioral dermatitis. So people, when they have certain skin problem, they will reach for heavy creams oftentimes, and in case of perioral dermatitis, like applying coconut oil or olive oil, things like that, sometimes you will even see those ingredients, on Pinterest or online as like a treatment, but in my experience, it can really make the matters worse. So I would try to leave the skin as bare as possible and just like not interfere so much. And when you're interfering, to do so with just like minimal, very gentle products and ingredients. And I'm going to list some of helpful ones now. So let me see. Yeah, I have like all these kinds of different ingredients to avoid. And then to help your skin recover, obviously we're gonna try the anti-inflammatory diet, try to cut out the triggers from the inside, also cut out the irritating ingredients from the outside, simplifying skincare. And then the ingredients and products that can be helpful are things like organic yogurt. And again, it's not going to work for everybody, but just try to do a patch test. So I recommend doing a patch test first on skin that doesn't have perioral dermatitis, like on part of the skin, and then on the one that has, just to see how your skin is reacting, because we do want to bring back some of that good bacteria, which is obviously now in imbalance. So as you know, we have lots of bacteria on our skin, fungi, mites, and they need to kind of be in balance for us to have healthy skin. So organic yogurt with really pure ingredients, with like live lactobacillus or bifidobacterium species can be helpful. Fresh aloe vera gel, but like the fresh one you squeeze from the plant that doesn't have preservatives, can be helpful. One thing that maybe can be a good starting point is to brew some strong organic green tea and use that as a toner once it cools down, because green tea has certain polyphenols like epigallocatechin gallate. I always don't remember the name.
EGCG.
EGCG, right? EGCG is super inflammatory and can really cool down the skin, cool the inflammation, whether you are dealing with acne or perioral dermatitis. So you can use it as a toner, morning and evening, even like more times during the day, and just like to kind of just calm down the skin, do something that calms it down. Another thing can be just organic chamomile tea, like to brew it strong and use it as a toner. Keep it in the fridge, use within a week. Don't keep in mind it doesn't have any preservatives. And that's it. Like in cases where it has already progressed, you may be forced to use conventional treatments, but it's not the end of the world. You go through a treatment and you try to go back to a routine that is soothing and non-irritating to just prevent it from coming back.
Perfect. And on the subject of fluoride as well, I've definitely seen that. So toothpaste, water, I think everyone, if they've got fluoridated water in the first place, I think it's just beneficial to get a water filter just for general health, because we know that fluoride has like antimicrobial properties, so it can affect the gut microbiome, therefore impacting immunity. It's also a halogen, so it can impact thyroid hormone production. So yeah, if you've got fluoride in your water, I think a quick Google search can help to determine that as well. I think it is recommended to get a fluoride filter as well. And then on the subject of the probiotic kind of aspect of yogurt being beneficial at restoring the microbiome on the skin, we've been seeing more probiotic skincare ranges these days, which are believed to be acting in similar ways. So like the big one that we hear most about is Mother Dirt. I don't know if you've heard of that particular brand, but what are your thoughts on probiotic skincare? Is it best to focus on your internal microbiome, which has a knock-on effect, or will topical probiotics help with skin conditions have you seen?
This is a really good question, and it comes into that it depends category. So I would say, when our skin is healthy, the bacteria on our skin is most likely in balance. So, skin is feeling just supple, moisturized, doesn't have, acne, or you just have like very sporadical breakouts. So this is kind of like indicative of, a strong skin barrier, that wall on our skin that keeps the irritants out, keeps the water in, and it usually comes together. This is why I kind of call it healthy trio, skin's pH, skin barrier, and skin microbiome. So they kind of support each other, and when one is down, the other two are also being dragged down. and being kind of like imbalanced. So I would say people who have maybe used antibiotics both orally and topically, definitely I think you can benefit from using a topical probiotic as well. So it has been really a challenge for skincare industry to formulate a product that has live culture of probiotics. And I think Mother Dirt, it's probably like one of the first, if maybe not the first brand to do so. So we know that the bacteria that they have, Nitrosomonas eutropha, is so-called ammonia oxidizing bacteria. So it's kind of like producing nitric oxide, which is a substance that is antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory. So it's just like a little part of that protective immune system on our skin provided by the good bacteria. And due to our hygiene practices, overstripping cleansers and scrubs and like everything we assault our skin with, there has actually been a decline in this type of bacteria. And bringing it back with, maybe Mother Dirt spray that has this bacteria can help, especially if you are been through like a course of either topical or oral antibiotics. So yeah, it's definitely something I recommend to my clients who fall into this category. I would not recommend it to like every single person, because I just think we don't need to give skin what it already has. Like, don't fix it if it ain't broken. So I don't think it's going to be really necessary for absolutely everybody, especially people who have always used minimal skincare. The skin is in a good place and healthy. Like, you don't need such a product, but it's definitely a great tool to have to help people with different skin conditions, including perioral dermatitis, to help their skin find its balance and just kind of lower that inflammation.
Yeah, it's kind of the same, like internally, if your gut's like really messed up and you're really compromised, then adding in a probiotic can sometimes make things a little bit worse, especially if there's like overgrowths or other issues going on. So yeah, with everything, I think everything we're saying, it may not work for you. So just always keep that in the back of your mind, even though some of these recommendations are really good and effective for some people. Always do like patch tests and things. I think we should really emphasize that. Yeah, it's really important. And
Absolutely.
probably an important one to do this with too is things like acids. So alpha hydroxy, beta hydroxy. Can you go through kind of the general exfoliating acids that we should know about and why we would benefit them?
Absolutely. This is a really good point. As you said, like, especially something that's going to be more invasive on our skin, give you quicker results, is usually going to be also maybe potentially more irritating. So you always need to do patch test, be very careful and like watch for the signs your skin is giving you. When it comes to exfoliating acids, as you said, we have AHAs, which is alpha hydroxy, and BHA, which is beta hydroxy acids. So basically, we have salicylic, and there's like also one or two other forms of salicylic acid that we use in skincare. I think they're a bit gentler than the salicylic acid alone, but basically it's the only of the BHAs that we use in skincare. And it's oil soluble one. So this is why it's touted to kind of just unclog the pores and be really good for oily skin, for clogged skin. So it can penetrate into that clogged pore and try to kind of unclog it. The problem with it is it can be too drying for a lot of people. So I would never recommend it to a client who has dry skin, for example. Like, I would rather go for alpha hydroxy acids if we know that their skin can tolerate them. And, I generally see the potential benefits of using them. Again, nothing is kind of like for everybody. There's not a single product or ingredient is going to be for everybody. When it comes to alpha hydroxy, there is, ingredients like glycolic acid, lactic acid. Glycolic acid is kind of like that golden standard. So I would say it's pretty strong in a lot of cases, but it's also really effective. So as we age, we can kind of like maybe turn more to glycolic acid. It's going to be more effective. Whereas, lactic acid is like gentle enough maybe to start with for a lot of people, but it's still gonna kind of get the job done. And it's a naturally occurring one that you also find like in organic yogurt. So this can be like a natural source. The good thing about the exfoliating acids is actually that they provide additional benefits. So with mechanical exfoliation, you're basically just scrubbing off that superficial layer of that skin cells. But with the exfoliating acids, they're also additional benefits that can kind of arise over time of using it. So lactic acid can actually boost the skin hydration via independent mechanisms. Something similar with glycolic acid. Mandelic acid, which is a different one, can even actually increase a bit the sebum production. So people who have like really dry skin, it can help with just kind of normalize that sebum production. So there are obviously like additional benefits to exfoliating acids, and they will work, you know, for a lot of people when it comes, if we are really careful about how often you use them, the concentration. So I would always recommend to start slow, you know, not every day of the week, just a few days per week with lower concentration, and then work your way up depending on what your skin needs. So they will be kind of like the general guidelines and just info.
And what about hyaluronic acid? That be something, a different category?
Yes, hyaluronic acid is simply, it's not an exfoliating acid. So it's not going to exfoliate the skin. It's simply going to hydrate the skin because it is a very effective humectant. So it draws the water molecules to itself and kind of holds them near the surface of your skin so that you feel your skin being moisturized, you know, when you touch it. It's also natural to our skin in a bit deep layers of the skin, but the one that you apply topically is just going to be there to just kind of temporarily boost that hydration level, which can help your skin also be healthier. So it can be combined with almost any ingredient, really. Whereas with exfoliating acids, I would mostly leave them to work on their own. So I would not apply vitamin C serum, you know, retinoids or whatever on top of it. Like, this is a no-no. Whereas with hyaluronic, it's just basically for hydration. So you can combine it with most things. It's not going to exfoliate the skin.
Recommended products or brands that you think are going to be helpful for, like, generally? Obviously everyone's different, but
I would say, yeah, it's really hard to answer because, yeah, I've recommended such different products for different people. But I would say maybe the one that is going to be cheap and like really widely available and gentle enough for a lot of people to start with is the 5% lactic acid from The Ordinary. Like this, you can be kind of like first tap into the exfoliating acid world and see how you go with them. A lot of people are able to tolerate it well. They see their skin is like just more glowing and exfoliated the morning after, no bad reactions, nothing. So usually I would say it's a good starting point, and like you're not gonna waste a lot of money if you find that it's not working for you. For example, you know, there's another good exfoliant that a lot of clients who come to me have already been using is the glycolic acid exfoliant by Drunken Elephant. So this is a product of almost $100, and it has a blend of like few exfoliating acids, including glycolic acid. This is going to be a stronger one, obviously. So people who are already experienced a bit in this area and know their skin can tolerate. Like I would not choose such a product to be my first exfoliating product.
So with makeup wipes, some of these can have like acids and chemical exfoliants in there as well. I recently heard your story on makeup wipes. So can you give us your general overview to whether they're effective or are they something that should be avoided as much as possible?
You probably know then that I'm not the biggest fan of makeup wipes. I just think it's one of those products that we don't really need. Like it's unnecessarily harsh on the skin, and there are much better ways of removing makeup, whether it's oil cleansing with a suitable oil and like a super soft washcloth, or a cleanser, gentle cleanser that's gonna remove the makeup as well. Because when we are using makeup wipe, the surface is not gonna be so cloud soft as I usually like. Whatever is touching your face, that is, you know, kind of a cloth, I would just really make sure that it's soft like a cloud. Like that's how soft it should be. A lot of makeup wipes you're gonna rub on your skin, you're just gonna the skin is just gonna get irritated. So a lot of the times, or a lot of the makeup wipes will have, I'm not going to say all of them will have, you know, sodium lauryl sulfate, but they will have certain surfactants because these are the cleansing agents that you cannot make the wipe without. Some are more harsh than others, but even when they are gentle ones, you need to have lots of preservatives to have a makeup wipe, because if you think about it, any water-rich environment is prone to bacterial overgrowth, and when you open the makeup wipe, there's like a big hole in that box, and all the makeup wipes are wet. So the producer needs to ensure that in the weeks that follow, they're not gonna get contaminated. Like they're not gonna start, having all the bacteria on them. And to do so, you need lots of preservatives, which are gonna irritate the skin because they also negatively affect the skin, the good skin bacteria on our skin. So the combination of these preservatives, stabilizers, surfactants, especially when you don't rinse them off. So a lot of people will use makeup wipes and then don't rinse them off, is just recipe for disrupted skin barrier. It's a recipe for disaster, because a lot of the skin issues start with disrupted, damaged skin barrier. This is when the inflammation is like continuously rising. So if you must use makeup wipes, honestly, don't. Just rinse them off with water. I would say micellar water is better, because you're gonna use like a softer, either reusable cotton cloth or soft, cotton round that is gonna be softer, and hopefully you're not gonna rub so much. So just try not to rub so much. Again, you would need to rinse it off. So yeah, definitely not a biggest fan of makeup wipes. I just think that there are so many, better ways to cleanse our skin and to remove makeup that they're not really necessary. They're convenient, which is what they sell. But, I'm always a bigger fan of the skin health over going, for the convenient option.
Me too. And I have a question about cleansers. So even like the natural skincare brands, when they have the cleansing agents that are derived from like coconut products, do you know what I mean? That give it like the slight foaming agent, is that still as bad as like SLS, or is that something that's fine because it's kind of a more natural?
When it comes to a surfactant being natural or not, it really doesn't matter. Because the molecule, we need to see how molecule itself is interacting with the skin. So a lot of the, artificial ones, the one that we created in the lab, synthetic ones, will actually be gentler on the skin than maybe some natural soaps, which will have, high pH, so they are going to disrupt skin's pH. So scientists have nowadays created a lot of really gentle surfactants. So the fact that something is derived from coconut means nothing when it comes to how gentle it is. So I know this is something that sells well, but it really has nothing to say. Like, as I said, like the most natural thing is, natural soap, but this can be actually the most stripping for the skin. So yeah, you if it foams a little bit, even if it doesn't, I mean, as I said, like to have something that cleanses and that washes off with water, you need to have surfactants. And some are gentler than others. SLS is obviously probably the harshest ones we use nowadays in skincare. And there are some others that, are pretty fine to use. I actually have like a category and a list of, for each category of some like examples in my free online course that you can also link to. So I just kind of teach people what to look for. So for example, if they have oily skin, they may be able to tolerate certain class of surfactants that are not super gentle. So they're gonna like cleanse properly their skin. Whereas people who really have sensitive skin need to search for like the gentlest possible surfactants. Yeah. Not just look for where it is derived from, like it doesn't
good point.
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I'm sure I've got a few clean, organic, non-toxic cleansers that contain some of these things, so I'm definitely going to have a clear out of all of those. And some people tend to over exfoliate with the wipes and with the physical scrubs and with the chemical exfoliation because they notice the under the skin bumps. So some people are prone to them like on their cheeks and particularly on their head. So these are called like milia. So what do you tend to recommend for them?
Actually, I think this is a really, really good question. I'm just going to go a bit deeper here because I've actually had interestingly, a few of the cases recently that people would email me and saying they were diagnosed with milia and that they will send me a picture of their skin and it's not milia, it's just comedones. And then I asked them, like, it looks to me they're just comedones. Are you able to squeeze them? And then the person says yes. And I'm like, then it's just comedones, milia. So milia, it's not really possible to squeeze out. It's just basically accumulation of lots of keratin under the skin surface. So that skin cells are basically, you know, not basic, but they do have a lot of keratin. Like most of them is just that keratin. So when your skin is kind of be clogged up by something or not able to exfoliate itself, and usually I would say people who use very heavy makeup removal products around the eyes, you know, like these oily waters and like whatnot, they will develop like milia around the eyes, maybe just due to these products. Obviously, you know, there are also internal triggers, but milia is going to be really yellow and just you just can't squeeze it. It's going to be for milia. Whereas for comedones, I would say it might be a bit different, because for milia, I honestly don't know what to tell you when it comes to the treatment options. Like, it would have to be something invasive. Like, I would go and ask for professional help, because there is no really exfoliant that you can use at home that's going to be effective. I mean, it could be, you know, some people may have had success, but it's really difficult. Sometimes retinoids can be of a little help, but it's a pretty kind of hardcore bump, very hard, difficult to get rid of. When it comes to comedones, and when you comment how people just go with lots of exfoliants and just different things when they have these bumps, let's say they're comedones, and I understand where they're coming from. Like, they're really eager to stop them from coming. What happens so many times, I've seen it so many times, is that you overdo it and you're causing yourself even more comedones, because comedones mature from clogged pore, and clogged pore is going to happen if you have too much inflammation. So as you're stripping your skin, as you're disrupting the skin barrier and just not letting your skin be in that healthy balance, you are going to raise inflammation. You are going to raise, you know, interleukin-1 alpha, which is a cytokine that triggers hyperkeratinization process, which basically clogs your pores, may even be contributing to milia. I'm not sure, just because it increases that keratin production in that skin cells, which makes them more sticky, but also create just the more keratin. So yeah, it's sometimes people, my clients would actually like, we would reduce the amount of exfoliation they're doing, and actually when they stop exfoliating altogether, the bumps would go away. Which is like completely different, with opposite of what everybody's telling you. So, you know, it's not like people, you know, would often ask me like, what is the one product, or I've been told I need to use salicylic acid if I have bumps. And I'm like, no, you need to first reduce or cut out those inflammatory products and practices to actually have a clean slate and start from the right spot to start getting rid of them.
Love that advice. Simplify and start with the basics before you like start searching for all of these fancy things.
Yeah, so just appearance of comedones doesn't mean that you need to exfoliate more. I think this is like the bottom line. It's gonna mean that sometimes, but if you're already exfoliating on a pretty regular basis, that's probably not the reason you are still getting comedones.
Okay. So people go a lot for facials, especially if they're prone to skin complaints, or just preventatively if they've struggled with something like acne in the past and they want to keep their skin clear. What are your thoughts on kind of conventional aesthetic procedures? So things like microdermabrasion, microneedling, vampire facial. Are there any that you tend to find aren't that helpful, or some that you find can be generally helpful for a lot of people?
This is a really good question. And then I would say it depends, because I like to know where the client's skin is at. You know, as we work together, their skin is kind of making progress and evolving in a way. So I would say they will reach a point, a lot of them, when they are ready for a facial. If they wanted to, they don't need to ever get it. That can benefit them. And but yeah, a lot of people will maybe get them without actually covering the basics and just ensuring that what they're doing every day is working. Because if you have, you know, a daily routine that's not working and you get a facial once a month, like how much of help, you know, how much help are you really getting? So when it comes to different facials, you mentioned, you know, the microdermabrasion, vampire facial. What was the last one?
Microneedling.
Microneedling, yes, they can all be actually helpful. I'm not such a huge fan of microdermabrasion, I must say. So, I mean, it's basically a very fancy way to mechanically exfoliate the skin, because you will have like these tiny crystals that are scrubbing the dead skin cells, and some of them will just like simultaneously also suck them into the device. It looks almost like a pen. So basically, it's a way to mechanically exfoliate the skin. And, you know, for people who don't have much acne, maybe have some bumps or have like melasma or different forms of hyperpigmentation, it can actually be helpful to take off the kind of extra layers of dead skin cells from the surface. I would say microdermabrasion or dermaplaning can be is similar in that way, and can be kind of efficient in treating these conditions. But then, how much is it better than chemical peels? I'm not an expert here to say, but I would say that maybe a gentler chemical peel, like those hydrofacials, may be more efficient. You know, who knows? So for people who cannot tolerate chemical exfoliants, obviously, you know, the microdermabrasion might be a safer bet. So it's definitely kind of like there's a one based on your skin needs. When it comes to PRP, you know, platelet-rich plasma is basically you are extracting it from your blood and, you know, applying on the skin. And I think actually the vampire facial is just basically applying that PRP after like microdermabrasion or maybe other forms of exfoliation, so that it can penetrate better. So you have like a lot of different, you know, growth factors and things that just gonna be that energy boost to the skin and just kind of boost, you know, its radiance, maybe push it for like better cellular turnover, which is what we want, to have more fresh new skin cells coming to the surface faster, and just like, you know, skin starts to look better. But I'm not sure of its long lasting results. So a lot of times after this facial, the skin will really glow, and if you're getting them regularly, you know, you could probably have really good results. But if you get them just once, I'm not sure like how much actually it's worth and how long the result's gonna last. So yeah, I would definitely say there is time and place, I would say, depending on where your skin is, to get a nice facial like one of these if you want. So yeah, one that will be for everybody, I'm not really sure what to say here. I would definitely say it's in those categories. It depends. Microneedling can be incredibly helpful for acne scars. And when it comes to dented acne scars, it may be actually the only thing that can give you like real difference. So yeah, getting it professionally done is obviously going to be more invasive, but also more effective than having like a home kit. But yeah, having a home kit may be a good way to get started. So yeah, definitely I would say it's in the category of depends. I always make my clients tell me when they're gonna get a facial, because in the past they'll be like, oh, I got this facial because, you know, my husband, whatever, like a friend bought it for my birthday or whatnot, and my skin is ruined now.
Oh no.
And it's like there were different facials involved, but it's just their skin was not ready.
Yeah,
it was not in the place where they can have that type of facial. So,
what about professionally done extractions, or doing it ourselves at home? Like, should we never pop a pimple, or is there a particular way that it needs to be done?
honestly, I would not make a habit of it. If you have just really the only time I would say to somebody to get an extraction facial, because in my experience it just makes more problems down the line. So yes, you have extracted at that particular second your comedones, but in my experience you're just raising inflammation, and no matter how gentle, you have still made like little pokes, like, you know, holes in your skin barrier, and this can just make the inflammation swim around, you know, inflame nuclear pores and just lead to more skin problems. So I would say that it's not something I generally recommend. Only sometimes if the person has really like very deep comedones, which take a long time to go away, and the person is already working both externally and internally on preventing new ones from coming, then I would say, okay, just get a facial, get them extracted, and then we're gonna make sure that no more new ones, or at least as much as possible to prevent new ones from coming to the skin. Just because it can be really a long time before the existing ones go away. But if you're not doing anything to prevent the new ones from coming, you know, you're not really getting anything from the treatment, nothing long lasting.
And is there a proper way for us to do it at home? Like, should we always just leave them to do their own thing? But what about if we've got like a important meeting or like a wedding to go to? How do we deal with a big fat whitehead?
This is a really good question. And sometimes I would just say, extract it, because its whitehead is just there. It's looking you in the eye, and I have to extract it. So I would just make sure your skin is clean. You're using a clean, tissue paper, and you're not poking from like deep around you're just trying to make a little hole in the pimple first, so that when you actually do squeeze, it comes out easily. So this way you're not gonna like do so much damage deeper into the skin. So this will be the way. Like, you don't need to steam or anything. Like, I would actually first try with hydrocolored patches if you can, because they will suck out that pus. So if your pimples don't come to the head, don't extract them. Like, you're not going to be successful anyway. But if your pimples do come to the head, try to use hydrocolored patches at least a few days before the event or something that you have, because they can really suck out so much of this pus that you may not need to extract them at all, which would be the ideal situation.
Interesting. I've never tried those. Is there a brand that you like that you recommend?
I have never used them personally, but I have lots of clients who swear it really helps. I mean, it really helps a lot of times because they're not seeing the pimple, so they're not picking at it.
Yeah.
It's like maybe the main way they're helping. So, there is not a brand. I think, God, I forgot the brand somebody recommended to me, but basically, I mean, any one with like really simple ingredients will work. So there are hydrocolored patches and acne patches. Acne patches will have like extra acne fighting ingredients, maybe like salicylic acid or tea tree oil or things like that. So I would just go honestly for hydrocolored patches in most cases, because some of these acne fighting ingredients can be just too irritating sometimes. So if you just need to, avoid squeezing the pimple, just go for hydrocolored patch.
Okay. So now I want to cover like some different types of skin and your top advice for all of them. So the first one being aging skin. Is there anything different that we need to be doing as we get older?
This is an excellent question. Oh, I love all these questions. So as we age, our stratum corneum, so that uppermost layer of epidermis, so epidermis as a layer is the uppermost of the skin, but then stratum corneum is going to be kind of like that top layer of dead skin cells. And as we age, our skin is not so good at exfoliating itself so much. So it is going to run, but it doesn't run so smoothly. So as we start to age, a lot of people will start to experience kind of like dry skin or downright dry skin. And they just think, oh, I just need to, use more moisturizer or more heavy moisturizer, but it's actually not what you need. What you need is a bit more exfoliation to get rid of, just like to try to thin out that now too thick stratum corneum, because we do need a certain number of layers of these dead skin cells, but if there are too many, you cannot really hydrate them properly. Like, you can hydrate, 15, 20 layers, but not 40 of them. So it's gonna look like you have dry skin, when in reality, as you age, when we are maybe in our 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond, you just need more exfoliation. So you need ingredients that are either going to directly exfoliate the skin, like exfoliating acids, or retinoids, which are going to increase the cellular turnover. So you're basically also thinning out that stratum corneum, which is now becoming to be too thick. So I would say these are the main things, or like the main ways in which our skincare should change as we age. Again, you don't need to go heavy on these ingredients if you're like in your 20s, in your 30s. I mean, it will depend on the skin. But, later than that, it becomes of more need to exfoliate the skin more regularly. because this is like one of the natural mechanisms in which the skin ages. What other things for aging skin? I mean, I would say vitamin A, the retinol is probably the most researched ingredient and the one that we really have good scientific data on. So I would make use of it. It works, whether you get it from like a non-toxic product or whether you get it from, downright toxic one, really strong one. Some people will just say nothing else is like strong enough for them. It can be really, really efficient. So this is the one product that I think, it works great for aging skin. Other ingredients like peptides, things like that can kind of also contribute to just younger looking skin, boost collagen production and so on. Have some research, maybe if a lot of them still inconclusive, but it can be helpful. However, I would make sure that you have these staples, that I mentioned, like something exfoliating that works for you, and a nice retinol. Yeah.
Perfect. What about darker skin tones? Is there anything in particular that they're maybe prone to or need to emphasize?
Do you mean just like dark? Do you mean like like for Black people or like for different race? Yeah. So I would say for them there is not much difference. Besides that they have better skin.
True.
Better. I just mean that their skin is naturally more acidic, and actually one of the pioneers in like skin barrier research, I think it's like a married couple called Elias and something. They have a paper titled "Black is Better." They've shown maybe like for the first time or like somewhere that the acidic skin of Black people really stays acidic for longer, so they do age better. And this is actually one of also the way in which we age. So like that I didn't mention is actually really important. So we do have more sensitive skin as we age, so you're not going to tolerate so much all these PhD disrupting, skin barrier disrupting products as well as we were young. So definitely the skin will become more alkaline, and you need to pay more attention to keeping it acidic enough. This will also actually be a priority. So for them, they're pretty lucky. So I think it's the same for Asian skin. So a lot of times we'll say, oh, they have such nice skin, and they do, oh my god, they look so young, and then we think it's all due to Korean skincare or whatever. It's also a lot of it is genetic. So I don't think there is much, like all of the principles that I teach will definitely apply to all races. Like it really doesn't matter how dark your skin is. Obviously they can maybe just produce melanin more quickly, or maybe like those whitish acne scars will be more prominent. But in like regard to treating the skin differently, no, honestly, nothing like drastic. There is nothing different I would do for different race, like a client. No.
Would you say that they can tolerate maybe less sunscreen, like they would benefit more from UV exposure, or is everyone best to avoid it as much as possible?
This is a good question. So I mean, as obviously if you have lots of melanin in your skin, you're naturally better protected against sun without applying any sunscreen. So for them, it can be fine to maybe skip the sunscreen here and there, especially if they live in like really cloudy climate. Again, of course, the sun always gets you. It's good to use sunscreen every day, but yeah, when it comes to vitamin D production, this is what maybe most differences, because they will probably need more sun exposure to produce enough. Whereas really kind of like fair skinned people will need just maybe a little time to produce enough. It's kind of like evolutionary, I guess, trait. Yeah,
true. And final skin kind of subject or area is children's skin. So again, you did like a fantastic Instagram story on this the other week, and I'm sure you've got that saved in your Instagram highlights for people to refer back to. So is there anything that we need to focus on for children's skin? Obviously it's less complex, there's probably no breakouts there, but they are prone more to things like eczema and maybe rashes. So is there any top tips for maybe parents out there listening?
Yes, this is, I think, a really important topic, because if we are definitely overusing, I see parents definitely overusing skincare on children, when the skin is just healthy on its own and it doesn't need much. It just needs us not disrupting it. So obviously, you know, when you have a baby, then you need to, you know, change a diaper like 8 to 12 times, something, sometimes more per day. And you would use a makeup wipe or something that has a surfactant, and it's going to be left on their skin, disrupting the skin microbiome, disrupting the skin barrier, and this can really trigger diaper rash, which is, like, I guess, one of the most common skin problems in young children, you know, babies. So I would say, and this is something I talk about, so just try to avoid them as much as possible. Next time, actually, I have a baby, I'm just gonna use like one of these really soft cotton rounds and make my own, maybe just like blend water with a bit of oil. Like, you don't even need some kind of soap or surfactant. You're just gonna wipe it with this, and I would actually use this after a gentle wipe, but I'm just gonna skip the wipe altogether, because I would always try to rinse off the wipe ingredients from the baby bottom, you know, from the baby's skin,
Yeah.
which can really irritate it. So this is my one tip, not to leave it on the skin if you must use a wipe. Also, when it comes to the bath time, you don't need a bubble bath every single day. Like, they can have a bath, and I think it's a nice ritual, which I also had with my son. Ever since he was, you know, a small baby, to have like a daily bath, just something relaxing before bedtime. But I would never put like a body wash or soap of any kind into it. I would just put several drops of a nice nourishing oil, like sweet almond or avocado oil. And, you know, he's not gonna stink, he's not gonna be dirty, like, he's gonna be clean like heaven. And this, I think, it holds true, you know, for children of, you know, like 5, 6, 7 years of age. Like, they will not need soap. Like, you know, they get dirty, sure, you know, wash the hands, wash the feet, but like having like a daily bubble bath, I think it's a thing of a past, and it can really just strip skin a lot, because their skin is pretty sensitive, and soaps do strip the skin, and they can develop eczema, they can develop dermatitis, all these skin conditions which are actually rooted in that inflammation we talked about in the beginning, and the disrupted skin barrier and skin pH. So this is where it's all stemming from. So yeah, I mentioned in my story like how my son never had like a diaper rash or eczema, any of those, not like nothing with the skin, and like nurses would always comment how nice skin he has, like it was always glowing, and like people were like, wow, like I cannot believe he's never had a diaper rash. I'm like, no, he really didn't. It's really so common, but I just think we need to think, you know, what are the products we're using on a daily basis. And yeah, I've had so many messages after that story, and people telling me like, oh my God, I wish I knew all this, because with my baby, we had this like terrible rash after I used this makeup wipe just once, and then it takes like months for the rash to go away and things. So it's like, yeah, really too harsh products on very delicate baby skin, especially young babies. So we need to be really careful.
Definitely. And there's all of this research these days about like the hygiene hypothesis. So the more that we kind of strip our skin and clean the house with bleach and don't let the kids outside playing in the dirt, that kind of impacts their immune system internally as well, which has a reflection on the outside. So don't let them get a little bit dirty, let them play outside. They don't need to maybe wash their hands before eating. Those types of things can really help with build up the immune system, make it more resilient, so that they're not like constantly coming down with colds and flus and immune-based problems. So yeah, that's a really important piece as well. And final question that I wanted to ask you your approach to is mindset when it comes to skin complaints, and particularly acne and things that kind of cover your face. You work with a lot of women with skin complaints, so how do you coach them through the mindset of it all? Because it can be like really relentless and upsetting and social isolating for some people. So what would your approach and advice be?
This is such a good question, and it's such an important topic. And I'm going to be really, really honest here. So a lot of the times, the women I coach, obviously I'm going to have a talk with them and just advise them to try to channel their energy into something other than their skin. So it's never enough to say, don't stress about your skin. I just think it's counterproductive and say, oh, it's just acne, it's just skin. No, it's not just acne. It's not just skin, because it has so much to do with our self-image, with our confidence. And actually, I even had like one of my newsletters on this topic that I have also a lot of responses from. Like, as a society, like, it's a good thing and we're promoting acne is normal, but also when we are belittling the problem, which can lead downright to depression for some people, we are really not making it. We're not helping. So people tell me, oh, I just always thought I was vain because I really felt insecure about myself because of my skin. I'm like, no, you're not vain. You're just trying to because we all want to look good, whether we want to admit it or not, and skin is a huge part of that. I can definitely relate to just being really insecure in the skin because of acne, and especially in adult age, when you're, you know, successful, maybe career woman, you have to hold speeches in front of the audience, you have, you know, meetings with your staff, and your face is covered in acne. Like, you look like a pimply teenager to yourself, like in your head. So the one thing is, I would say to you know, accept that it's stressing you out. You know, don't stress about it's stressing you out. It's stressing you out enough already. So we need to accept, yes, it's a problem, but also to just focus as much energy into other projects that excite you, that occupy your thoughts. Because if the skin is all you can think about all day long, how are you ever going to relax? Like, there's no way. You can have your 10-minute meditation or whatever, but like, if your thoughts are mostly on your skin all day long, you have nowhere else to channel them to. It's really very terrible. So like, for people who maybe like go on a 2-3 day camping trip without even a mirror, they'll be like, oh my God, like I feel so much better just because I didn't think about my skin so much, about what I'm putting on it, or like, so, you know, these things it's really helpful. The one thing that I find is like the trick to really relaxing people when it comes to their skin is when they see and feel that they're making a progress, or at least when they are certain they are on a good path. Because what I found to be a source of a huge amount of stress is when you're doing something and you're not really sure if it's going to work. As long as you are in that position, you're gonna be stressed, like, to more, you know, or bigger or a smaller extent, but you're gonna be stressed. Like, it when people tell me, now I finally feel I'm going in the right direction, I feel this is gonna work, I see small changes every day or every week, this is when I can actually start relaxing, not before.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can call it vain, you can call it, you know, being obsessive, but I don't call it like that. You know, like, I just think that it's very human-like to when you see it's working and when you're confident you're gonna get to your goal, this is when you start relaxing, because you're not in this like constant stress, like, I don't think this is working, I just don't think it's not gonna be enough to relax you.
We've both been there as well, so we totally can relate and empathize with people who are struggling with skin issues. And it's so easy for people who have had like amazing clear skin all of their life to say, oh, it's only a few spots, it's not that bad. Like, people have much worse, like some people have burns all over them, and you can't say that to someone because like you said, it's their confidence and something that they want to focus on. And the mind is so powerful, so it's that saying, like, the more that you focus on something, the more that it's going to happen, and that the more that you focus on the negatives, the more that's going to come into your life. And like the negative energy and the stress caused by your thoughts is just going to exacerbate the problem. So we don't expect you to be like Pollyanna and just happy about everything and like saying in the mirror, like, I'm beautiful. If you really don't feel it, that's absolutely fine. For some people that can help with the motivation, but yeah, you just have to remember that it's a process. The skin takes time to recover, but like you said, the minute you start to feel comfortable and confident, like when you're working with a coach as well, I think that's why it's so important. You've got someone else telling you from an outside perspective their opinion. It's not just you looking at what's going on at yourself the whole time, because you can miss crucial, important things. So yeah, I love that overview, and I think it's such a good summary to this episode as well, because it's fine us talking about all the different topical things, but I think if you've not got your mindset right, in the right place, you don't feel confident in your approach, then you're never going to fully overcome your issues. So yeah, I love wrapping it up on that note, and we finished all of the questions I had, which is amazing in the time too. So yeah, this was a great episode. I knew it would be, and I would absolutely love to have you back on again. I'm sure I will in the future. There's never ending questions, so there's always going to be something that we can chat about. But yeah, Sarah.
Questions,
seriously. Oh, good. So can you remind people where they can find you online? Tell them a bit more about your online courses again. And I am an affiliate for your course, because I absolutely loved it and learned so much myself. So the link to that will be in the show notes if you wanted a discount on that as well. And yeah, will do. So tell us a bit about where they can find you online.
So I'm basically Healthy Skin Glows on all platforms. Like if you just Google, Healthy Skin Glows, and its exact handle on Instagram as well, Healthy Skin Glows. And it's also healthyskin-glows.com for my website, where you can find my blog and like free courses. So where I have free online course and a few of the free email courses, where you get one email throughout the 3 days. So you get one email every day during the 3 days. And also for my paid course, which is basically I would say you may find like 20% of the skin health issue, the kind of topics that I talk about there, but I put basically everything that you need to know to develop your skincare routine to fit your skin needs. I didn't just scatter this info throughout my blog, so you won't find it like it's not a collection of blog posts as some people do the courses, because if it was just scattered around, you would not, like, it would just be destructive to you. Like, you need it in like organized matter to actually follow the steps to so it's basically helping people, especially like adult women with acne prone skin, find again that healthy balance and do as much as you can topically to heal your skin from acne and just make it really healthy and glowing. I get also a lot of questions if it's going to work for if you don't have acne. Absolutely, it's teaching you core principles of good skincare that anybody can apply. So it's there, you will not see in there, use this moisturizer, use this cleanser. Obviously there's going to be a list of like over 100 products or so with my recommendations, but the most important part is where I teach you what to look for, how to listen to your skin, in which order to apply products, what to look for, how to use different ingredients, how to combine, and so on. So it's really like a very in-depth course on skincare. So yeah, it's something that I definitely recommend if you are just totally confused with your skincare. So before wasting any more products, just learn what you're doing first. And it's going to be it's actually one of the things that a lot of my clients and just like students will say in their feedback, like, I'm using so much less money on skincare now, but it's working. It's like, yeah, you didn't need so much to begin with.
And we were talking about this again before we hit record, that I asked you, was that ever in your kind of future goals to ever create a skincare? And you were saying not really, because there's so many products out there, good and bad, and your job and your passion is to educate people on how to find what works best for them, coaching them through that. So I absolutely love that about you. So thank you so much for your time once again, and I recommend everyone go and follow you and check you out, because every day you're providing some sort of information that's so valuable to so many people.
Thank you so much for saying that. It's like, I have the same opinion about you. So like always, referring people to you, because as we also commented, like treating the skin from outside properly and inside is really like, I'm going to say the only way to get really, really good results. Exactly. Because if you do one and the other is like is mess, like, get as far as you would like to. So.
And that $300 serum's not going to really work if you're eating McDonald's 3 times a day.
Yeah. No, it's seriously like I actually got asked just earlier from somebody, and it's a typical question I get to ask, like, what is the one product or ingredient that I need to have if I have acne? And it's just like, and I explained in a lot of words in my course why this is a wrong question to ask, you know, so how to basically know what works for your skin and how to learn. So there is no one single product or ingredient for everybody. There's no one size fits all. So yeah, definitely learning about skin, our skin, how it suffers and how it interacts with all these different products, is gonna last your lifetime, the knowledge, and you're gonna really harness it to have the best skin possible.